everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 22 of Death Note. And I'm pretty excited because Rim's back, there's shenanigans, Misa was crazy last episode, and now it looks like they've caught Kira. So Misa and Light should get off scot-free, right? How's Elle gonna deal with that, right? So, it's crazy, right? It's a bit crazy. So, before we dive into this episode, though, I do have a few comments I want to go through, and then something that was shared on the Discord that I just want to bring up with everybody. But as far as comments go, first I want to talk about Caitlin. Caitlin on YouTube talked about how Higuchi, his color scheme is often purple, which is a mix of red and blue. So there's like a selfishness and a selflessness in what he's doing. So I thought that was a cool combination that he kind of takes these two aspects, the aspect of Kira with Light as well as with Elle and second Kira, Misa, and kind of combines that as well. Alexander Q. I really like this comment from Alexander Q. That Elle is doing something. We talked in the last episode about Elle and Light both doing, and this is going to kind of tie it to Raymond Ortiz's comment as well. That Elle and Light both have done kind of cold-blooded and ruthless things in the name of justice. And like I said in the last video, I'm going to call Light and Elle both out, and that they've done both things that are not exactly kosher for the sake of justice that they're doing. But I like that Alexander Q talked about how with Elle in the last episode, a lot of his actions in the episode before that are out of a sense of desperation, and that there is a stake with emotion over logic tied to it. So a lot of Elle's actions right now, they aren't exactly 100% logical. There is an emotional element to it, and there is an aspect of desperation. And Raymond Ortiz was talking about Naomi and Ray Pimbar's deaths. And I wanted to bring up that kind of is the same case with Light too. When Light killed Naomi and Ray Pimbar, it was cold-blooded and ruthless, just like Elle saying that those guys had to die at the hands of the third Kira in order to prove that it was Kira. However, Naomi and Ray's death are both tied to Light having a sense of desperation and a moment where his emotion overrid his logic. Like, Light was like, yeah, the deaths of these two characters don't match up with my ideals, but they're necessary for me to continue doing what I'm doing, so I'm gonna do it. So there's that desperation and emotional side of it. And the same with Elle. Elle's like, yeah, these people dying for the sake of us finding Kira kind of goes against my main MO of stopping the deaths, but it's for the sake of it's as a means to an end. So in both Elle and Light's case, they've both been responsible for the deaths of people in order to have their justice enacted. And I think that's pretty interesting, right? The parallels continue, right? So I don't think that either Light or Elle are paragons of virtue. Nah, they're pretty morally gray, except Light has a god complex, and Elle seems kind of like the opposite of that. Like, he's like, oh no, it's just he tries to seem as objectively removed from justice as possible, whereas Light is like, I am justice. So that's how they're so polar opposite, and it's fascinating. But I really liked both of your comments on Patreon and YouTube for that. And then Samuel, both Samuel and Same Dude, commented how we actually get a perspective and a set ruling on how Light made the determination of who died as Kira. For 15 episodes, Light just seemed to be killing off criminals, and there wasn't really a standard. But lo and behold, in episode 22 of this 36 episode series, we finally get that there was actually a criteria that Light was working with when he picked up his criminals, which is fascinating that the mangaka, the creator, waited this long to reveal that. But I find it fascinating they reveal that as Elle's having his moment of like desperation and emotion over logic. Seems fitting, right? But also, some dude kind of expanded further upon that, saying that at the end of the day, Light still had the God complex. He still is kind of a psychopath. But without the Death Note, there's no like goal or purpose behind it. So he didn't really have a reason to act out or do the things that he was doing as Kira because there was no catalyst or platform for him to do so. And the Death Note kind of, we talked about, like, I think Bernard Black talked about the idea of power corrupting versus power revealing. I think this last episode kind of goes in favor of the power revealing, but also power amplifying, power being amplified by the Death Note. And so I think that's really, really fascinating as we move forward. I did watch the English dub of episode 21, and the only thing that stood out, I mean, it was a good episode. The dub casting is great. Elle's voice actor at this part of the series, the sarcasm and how thick it is 100% amazing. But one thing I did want to note is that there is a translation thing where Rim when she's tearing out the piece of the Death Note to give to Misa so that she can see her. In the English dub, it makes the comment, just this will not bring back her memories from being the second Kira. So I wondered if that was just like a translation, like a little throwaway line, or if it meant that if Light or Misa get the actual Death Note back, their memories will come back, or if that's just a throwaway translation. I don't want to know, but it's something that's in the back of my mind for now. And finally, some dude notes how Misa could have been wiretapped while she was on set, but they brought up a good point saying, well, she went and changed clothes in the restroom with the girl that was the nurse. So if she was wiretapped, all that went out the window when she changed clothes. And I was like, that makes sense. That ties it all together. It's why she had to record on her phone the thing with Higuchi. I was like, that's a great note. Good. The mangaka's thinking there, being like, yeah, she could have been wiretapped, but because she changed clothes, it doesn't matter. So it's like, okay, cool. And then finally, the truck on Discord actually found some stats of our Death Note characters that I'm going to put up here and show you all as we go. They were very nice to not put any spoilers. They put stats for the actual the Yotsuba group, but I'm not going to post all of those. If you're a patron and you're on the Discord, you can go to the Death Note channel and see all of those. They like detail them in detail. It's really great. But I did want to show you Light and L and Misa's, as well as another one. So the one for Light, he's pretty OP. I'm like, wow, what a shonen protagonist. So OP. The only thing he's kind of off on is his intelligence factor isn't fully there, along with acting skills and creativity, and his willingness to act is interesting, that there's a little bit lacking there. That's fascinating to me, especially when you compare it to L. Willingness to act is a little bit better than Light's, but his intelligence creativity is a little bit under Light's. I'm like, its intelligence is a little bit under creativity. Love for sweet food. Social life is where he lacks. Social life, he is absolutely devoid, whereas Light is like maximum social life. I'm like, interesting. And then we have Misa's, who like her social life and charm are maxed out. Intelligence, I felt bad intelligence was a little bit low for Misa, but the truck pointed out in the Discord that it could have been a translation thing and it might have been wisdom instead of intelligence. Makes a little more sense. And then willingness to act, she is like gung-ho, which is where Light and L are not nearly as. But then finally, Naomi Misora's was pointed out. And Naomi on Misora, it actually has like date of birth, date of death, which I thought was interesting. And then it says her likes were leather apparels, her dislikes are stalkers. And then it says that she has intelligence, creativity, willingness to act, motivation, social life. She's like the most well-rounded, except it says degree of luck, 0. And I was like, that's so cruel. How dare you, creator? That's so mean. Also, they didn't include the likes or dislikes for Misa or Light because I'm assuming those would be spoilers. But for L, likes sweet things, dislikes socks. Who knew? L is not Dobby. He does not like socks. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So I liked all that being pointed out, but I thought that was fun, but we've talked enough. I'm ready to get into good old episode 22 of Death Note and to see what all we get. So let's not waste any more time, shall we? We're going to start episode 22 of Death Note, and we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So this episode, I was on the edge of my seat the entire episode, and I was like, wait, what? But L, nah, because it's all coming together. Like things are, I said in the last episode, I figured that we would have a couple more episodes before we like wrapped up whatever this arc is with Higuchi. But then how we move on from there, how we're going to meet these other characters that are in the OP, we are at episode 22. There's only 36 episodes in the series. Where are all these extra antagonists gonna come from? So it's like, what? I've been told that there's only 13 volumes of the manga, which is interesting. Of course there's 13. I eventually would like to get the whole set. That would be a lot of fun. I think I would eventually like to get the whole set and then read them, so maybe that'll be like a Christmas wish list item. Be like, I really want that whole Death Note set. That'd be fun. So we'll see. But man, this episode, just guidance. So just trying to figure out, like, to guide these people through certain things. So I want to bring White Raccoon out. And I actually have them flipped around the wrong way, but it's all right because I want to talk about a few things with our dear sweet Light and Elle and this madness that is this episode. Oh my God! So yeah, we get the backstory there with we get the whole thing. There's some shots in this episode that are amazing, and I'm like, I feel like they're from the manga. And then there's Misa, girl, guidance, figuring out that he is. And we start off the episode instantly. I have a feeling I'm going to take a lot of screen caps in this, but we start off the episode with Elle instantly dropping the sugar into the coffee like, I'm going to need this with this episode, right? So I want to make note of how Elle is framed in this episode. Elle is framed so interesting in this episode. We see Matsuda is the only one like looking over to see what Elle is doing, but you have Light and Misa talking to one another, and then you have Mogi and Matsuda and Yagami on the other side of him, and he's dropping the sugar into the coffee, looking like he's dead to the world. I'm like, Elle, oh my God. But yeah, Elle's like, well, this has been a turn of events. And as he's slowly taking the sip, and he's like, okay, with his like dead cat eyes, he's like, if the killing of criminals stop, then I'm not going to be able to figure out the method. Then Higuchi has Kira's powers. But if that's, and I love he does like the little lizard lick. He's like, like does the lizard lick. It's great. Still, I knew Amane would do anything for Light, but to go this far. And she's like gushing about it to Light, who just looks like, oh my God, like what the hell? He just looks like, what? And so I never thought she would go this far. No, she's super dedicated. And that's the thing too. If Elle is asexual, you know, he doesn't know like love spurs you to do some crazy things. And so, which Elle being asexual has nothing to do with him loving somebody, but Elle hasn't really loved anyone before that we know of. He's just now admitted that Light and Misa are like his first two friends. So, you know, he hasn't had that concept of love and that it makes people do crazy things. And Misa is a case in point in it. So, I'm going to tie Elle here. So, Elle is interesting in all this in how he applies the situation to Light and his sort of plan throughout most of this episode. It's fascinating. He's like, if the killing of criminals stops, then it will become difficult to deduce the method of killing. So here's the thing. Elle, throughout this entire series, I've talked about it with several people in the comments. Elle's whole hang-up is that he doesn't know the rules of the game. He doesn't know how the killing actually works. We've gotten like hints and pieces of how the Death Note works. So what he knows at this point in time is that he knows that you need a name of the victim if you are Kira, and he knows that a face and name is needed if you are. Well, here's the thing. Let me back up and erase that because that's a little bit backwards here. If the name here, let me back up there and just erase all of this. I'm like, okay, so if you are, it's like this whole episode is like a brain melt. So if you are, in fact, Kira needs to see a face and have a name. But if you are second Kira, as far as Elle knows, they just need to see a face. So he knows that those are kind of the parameters behind that. And also knows that Kira can control the time of death and the means of death. Like, how did they die? And can possibly make people do things until they die. Do things until death. He knows that. What he doesn't know is how does the actual killing take place? Like, how does he kill them? Does he just like will the person to die? Does he just use like a telepathic power? And does he have to touch them? Like, he clearly doesn't have to touch them because he's seen people die without the case. But like, is there something, he needs to know the mechanisms. Like, something's missing for Elle. Elle's like, I know something's missing from this, but I don't know what it is, right? So he wants to know the method of killing. And the problem is, if they book Higuchi before they learn that method, then they're kind of back to square one. And he's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, it's going to be really difficult to deduce what the method of killing is if we get this too soon. He's like, I have to think of a plan. So the crazy thing about this is that L is trying to think of a plan to stall catching Kira when his goal is to catch Kira. But the reason why makes total sense, because he wants to figure out how is Kira killing people. If he knows that, then that's the one piece of the puzzle that he's been missing. The death note itself is what's keeping L from really being able to book somebody. The fact that what he doesn't know is about the death note and about the Shinigami. Like, that's the way that they say it in the English dub, the Shinigami. Like, that part he's missing. So it's fascinating that he's trying to convert this plan, right? And so he's like, Misa, how did you get Higuchi to say that? I love Boy Scout L in this episode, that he's very stern and just like, now, how did you get him to do that? And Misa's like, I'm not going to tell you that he was all up on me because I don't want you to know that. I like that we also have the tower and all the levels. What does it say here? Plan A. Plan A is like, there's a system of the building and we have all these different things. Oh my gosh. I love that L has this so tracked out. And he's like, oh, well, he's in love with me. So I told him I'd marry him if he was Kira. And he thinks that I'm the second Kira. And L's like, how convenient. And she's like, if I don't say this now, I'll contradict myself later. So I am glad, for as much as Misa is kind of spur of the moment and spontaneous, I do like the idea here that Misa knows, she is self-aware and knows she can't lie about some things. She knows how smart L is and how smart Light is. And she's like, I need to be truthful. Just don't give him all the truth, right? She's like, I just need to say, that he thinks I'm second Kira so that if it comes up later, it's not an issue. So Misa's pretty smart about all of that, right? I love how her eyes are shimmery. And then I love that Light's like, you idiot! You baka Misa! Baka Misa. I love that Light just blatantly calls her an idiot. It's great. We told you to deny all that. He gets onto her. He's like, why would you do that? You'd put yourself in danger if you did that. And then as all this is going on, I love that Mogi is watching Watari, and she's like, well, now we know that Higuchi is Kira. And Watari just going by with the sweets trolley. We can just catch him. And there's like lady fingers, and there's macarons, and there's like pie. Watari, how does Watari do it? How does he divide his time up between wiretapping a house and an estate, getting it on with Wheatie, and also making sweets for L? Because my new crack ship is Watari and Wheatie. W squared, bitches. I'm all here for it. Watari, I imagine Watari is a ladies' man. He knows their way into their hearts. And he's like, sorry, I've got this kid that I'm watching. I gotta make sweets for him, and then I'll come back, That's the new crack ship. Watari and Wheatie, get on board. But yeah, he brings up, and I love he grabs the macarons. And then he's like, I suppose you could call this a victory, right, Mr. Matsuda? I like that he addresses it to Matsuda like you'd be the one that would immediately think this was like that, right? Kind of like a backhanded compliment. And then Matsuda's like, I guess. He's like, in our current situation, we still don't know how he kills his victims. And he's like, yes, before we catch Higuchi, I want to know how he kills people. So I'm glad that L is honest in this moment, where he's like, look, I don't want to catch him until we know how he does it, because otherwise, what's the point? We're going to be back to square one. Also, I like that in this episode, we have the contrast between L in the jeans and the white t-shirt, and Light is back into his Boy Scout khakis and his black evil turtleneck. So it's a great contrast, right? And so he has the 3 macarons, and he has the chocolate one, the strawberry one, and the vanilla one. Your 3 classic ones, just like Light, L, and Misa. And he's like, I want to and he flicks one and gets, I like that when he flicks one, I imagine L is the chocolate macaron, Light is the vanilla one, obviously, and Misa's the strawberry one, and he flicks the chocolate and he knocks Misa and knocks Light out. Again, all the things kind of tie back with the pink sugar cube, tying back to him catching Kira. And so Light is like, yeah, if the criminals stop dying, we're not going to figure this out at all. So what are we going to do, right? And he's like, yes, even if we arrest Higuchi. I love that he even grabs his desserts with the fingers like that. We'll do it when we're sure the criminals have stopped dying. He's like, let me think for a moment. I like the L's like, look, I just need like 5 seconds to make up a plan. Let me eat this cake and I will be in full deduction mode. He's like, I gotta eat this cake first. And everybody just stands around and lets it happen. And then he's like, Wheatie. Also, I realize now that Wheatie and Watari both have the W's. They're W squared. They both have the W icons. So maybe he already had the W icon made up for Watari and he just used it for Wheatie too. Clever. I like the idea that for each person on his contact list, he has a special monogrammed screensaver for them. And so he's asking where she's at, and she's like, everything's going smoothly, and we should be able to track 70% of the Seven's actions with our cameras in the building. And he's like, what about outside? And she's like, that's impossible with just Watari and me. She's like, hey, we're just two guys trying to get this job done. You can't expect much from us like that. And he's like, how about focusing on just Higuchi? And she's like, Higuchi? And I like how she's saying he's like eating the cake. So she's in like her Catwoman garb inside this like portable van. Like she is Catwoman. She's like at this portable van. So I'm going to put Wheatie up here. I love her. We don't get a lot of her, but she's great. I love that we have Wheatie. And she is like infiltrating alongside Watari. It's great. I love it. And she also has been assigned to just track Higuchi. Now she establishes that that's not going to be easy peasy because she's like, I've only been inside 5 of their houses, but Mito, Namikawa, and Higuchi's houses have serious security systems. So now Namikawa is the one with the long hair, and Mito is the one with the glasses, right? We'll go back there. So Mito, Namikawa, and Higuchi all have serious security systems. Okay, serious security systems. So their houses are pretty on lock. Not easy to infiltrate. Especially Higuchi. He's recently constructed an underground room that blocks out electronic waves. Recently constructed! Like, how quickly did he put this together? Like, it had to have been pretty quick because they've only been investigating for like a couple months, right? It's like, it took me 2 days to break in. And he's like, Higuchi's definitely suspicious. Yes, Matsuda Baka, absolutely. And then he's like, okay, then please install wiretaps, tracking devices, and cameras in Higuchi's car rather than his house. He's like, fine, if we can't infiltrate the house, we're gonna go to the next best thing. We're gonna do his car instead. And I like how Wheatie kind of gets offended by it. She's like, I took 2 days to break into this house, and you want me to move to the car? She's like, do you know how difficult it was to get in here? Do you even know how many cars he has? And he's like, 6. He's like, yes, 6. And she's like, fine. She's like, fine. I just have to install them in all the cars, right? So instead, we're going to hack into the 6 cars of Higuchi. Okay, fair enough. And I love that Misa is kind of aware of just how crazy this is getting. And he's like, yes, please do. And Misa's like, well, shit, I'm glad I wasn't wiretapped. I'm like, just like we talked in the last episode, Misa's like, whew, that was a good thing. That was a good thing that I didn't have that installed before I got in there. Whew, saved me. That she's like, that could have been really bad. Again, Elle is so close. If she had wiretapped the cars a day ago, then Misa would have been found out. A day ago. But it's just luck. It's just luck. Luck is not on Elle's side. I'm like, man, that was so close. And he's sitting there with the nougats there. And I love that he's just staring at them. And he's like, Yagami, I'm sorry for coming back to this topic. I love this conversation. This is probably my favorite part of the episode. He's like, I have to ask you again. And he's like, do you remember how to kill? And he looks at him with like these big cat eyes, right? And it's kind of insane that Light is like, excuse me? And the way that Light looks down, he instantly like gets mad at him. And he's like, why are you still saying that? I'm not Kira. How many times? But the thing is, the thing about it is, that's kind of funny in all this, is that Light denies, he denies being Kira, but he's been thinking about it these last few episodes, like, what if I was? And he's like, no, I'm not. And Elle keeps bringing it back, right? And he's like, how many times? And he's like, just answer the question. And he's like, do you remember? And he says, and I love that Light just gives him that stern look. And he's like, no, I don't. And he's like, Misa, what about you? And she's like, I don't remember, and I'm not Kira. The thing that's devious about Misa is that whether she's acting or not, she kind of puts on that front either way. So you don't really know. Like, she's being genuinely herself, but even when she's lying, you're not really sure. Like we know as the audience, she's lying in this moment. She does know how to be Kira because Rim has told her, like, the process. So she knows, but she can pull it off convincingly. That's the scary thing about Misa, is that we, the audience, know she's lying, but in the moment, if you didn't know that, she sounds no different than she has the rest of the time. And then, I'm sorry, but what is this? What is this? I'm going to show you all a picture of this. Why? Why is Elle drawn? That's the sexiest Elle has ever been drawn. Like, what is that collarbone? What is that what is that bicep? Does it look like that in the manga? Does it look like that in the manga? Why does Elle look so sexy there? I don't understand. He's in his eyes with the shadow. It looks like eyeliner. What? Show, why are you making me think these things? What are you doing? He just looks like he doesn't believe either of them. He's so convinced that they're Kira and second Kira, he doesn't believe them. And the insanity of it all is he's right. They're them. But he doesn't know that they really don't remember. And then it's just like, Yagami, please seriously analyze and deduce what I'm going to say. Because Light's like, Elle's like, okay, Light, I know you're smart. You're smart as I am. You might be smarter than me. According to the stats, he is. But he's like, I know you're as intelligent as me. So figure this out. If you don't remember being Kira, but you were, how does that work? He's like, I need you to think about what I'm going to say and really think about it like a detective. Your answer will determine if we can catch Kira or not. And Light's just looking at him. He's like, Light Yagami was Kira. And I love that Misa is like staring at him like, she knows he was Kira. That's the crazy thing. She knows. And Kira's power was passed on to someone else. So Light Yagami doesn't remember that he was Kira. So then, based on this premise, what do you think? Can you think about it that way? He's like, fine. He's like, I'm tired of saying that you are Kira and you're denying me, but just hypothetically, if that were the case, what would we do with that information? What can we deduce? And he's like, I want to see if you and I are going to come to the same conclusion. And he's like, I'll give it a try. And then I love that we like zoom in. And the crazy thing is like, he's like, the way that Light processes it, it's like everything is all shaky cam, but there's also like some images that are included in that. He's like, Yagami was Kira, and Kira's power passed to someone else. And we see the foot flex, and then we see, did it pass on through Light Yagami's will? Did it? And he said, or was there someone behind Light? And the thing of it is that when the stage light from the stage, was there someone behind Light Yagami? And even though it's not, he doesn't see a Shinigami, it looks like a devil. It's the idea of a shadow forcing him to do something. Light's considering that. We know that Ryuk's been behind him this whole time, even though Ryuk's not made him do anything. That's the crazy thing. Who gave him Kira's power. And Elle's crushing it, right? Did that person pass Light Yagami's power to someone else? And then we see Apple bursting. Oh my God. And then Light. Him thinking. I love the dramatic closing of his eyes. And then he opens them back up. And he just looks so solemn. He's like, under these circumstances, it would be Light Yagami's choice. And he says, of course it is. Just confirming it. So we've confirmed the fact that it is. He knows now, okay, based on that, it is Light's choice. It was Light's choice to pass on the power. confirming what Elle is thinking. He's like, of course, it wasn't someone forcefully doing it. It was that person's decision. He's like, if there was someone who was moving that power from person to person and didn't want the method of murder to be discovered, it's strange that he took so long to move it from you to someone else. So, and then he's crushed the candy. If we acknowledge these, and so then we get into this like religious thing, right? So if we acknowledge the existence of someone watching us from above, so again, so it's this concept of free will. If we acknowledge that existence of a higher power, he would be impossible to catch, and I'd be dead already. So Elle is saying, Elle seems pretty agnostic, right? He doesn't seem like, or atheist. He doesn't seem like, I'm gonna say agnostic. I think that he's pretty much like doesn't believe in like a higher power, because he says that if Kira was from a higher power, quote unquote, then they would keep moving the power and Elle would be dead. He's like, yeah, no, that makes sense, because if there was a higher power that was controlling the Kira ability, then why am I not already dead? Why do I keep getting close to catching them? He's like, that doesn't make any sense. He says, or I'd be toyed with forever in the palm of his hand. He's like, well, the other option is they're just toying with me for the end of time. Then God is punishing me for my hubris and my work is never finished. It's highly unlikely that such a being exists. He's like, otherwise, my other option is that I'm being toyed with forever. He's like, I'd like not to think about that, because that seems like a nightmare. And in his face, his eyes are so wide. He's like, I really don't want to think that's the case. So, let's just go with not that. Even if Light Yagami was Kira, Kira's power can only move by the will of the person who has it. So Light can't affect the power anymore. Thanks to you, I feel 99% better. Meaning that he kind of, it's opening up his suspicion, right? So in other words, Light's like, Elle's like, I figure I'm 99% better because I've confirmed my suspicions that you in fact were Kira and she was second Kira, and the power you forcefully, this is confirming everything Elle has thought. He's like, Light did move the power off of himself so that he could escape alongside Misa, because they knew they were about to be caught and cornered and wouldn't have been able to get out, and Elle was about to win. So he's like, yeah, this just confirmed 99% of what I've been thinking this whole time, but there's still that 1% we don't know about, right? Oh, buddy. And so I was like, okay. And then Watari comes in with more food. I'm like, why did Watari come in with different food? He puts down the snacks and the coffee and the creamer. But I'm like, he wasn't finished eating what you gave him. So why? I like that one's a rabbit, one's like red velvet, and one is like has the nougat and stuff. I'm like, Watari, what the fudge? I do like the rabbit one. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we'll create a situation. I just like he's eyeing those new treats where Higuchi cannot pass his power on to anyone else, and he has to show us how he kills. I'm still curious how that's going to work. Obviously, they don't give us all the plan's details in this, but I am curious. I'm like, how are they going to convince Higuchi to show off the power? I thought they were going to try to get him to say on the phone how it works, and he almost does. He gets so close to revealing it, but he holds back. And he's like, what are you going to do? I'm going to trick Higuchi using Sakura TV. And then Matsuda's like, a hidden camera show? Yeah! Like, Matsuda's instantly on board with it. And they're like, what are you talking about? And like, there's a Kira special that Damigawa airs every week. We'll take up a 3-hour time slot. So they're giving themselves enough time. So there's a 3-hour time slot. Okay. 3-hour slot to reveal Higuchi, and for him to show Kira's powers and how they work. That's what he's going for. Yep, that's the plan. Okay. And so Matsuda's like, well, will he believe that? I mean, it's Sakura TV. Like, why would he? It's not the most reputable, it ain't C-SPAN. And so he's like, and I love that he grabs He grabs the little chocolate red velvet piece first, so maybe that represents Matsuda. That sweet delicacy. I feel like L really likes chocolate, so he goes for the chocolate stuff first. He's like, Higuchi might not even watch that program. And then Light says we'll contact Namikawa and have him call Higuchi and say. So Namikawa is the one that they've been in contact with, that they've been cooperating with. So it makes sense why his security system's amped up. He's probably nervous that he's going to be caught by Kira and be found out. So it makes sense why him and Higuchi have the security systems. We'll talk about Mito in a minute. But yeah, Light is like, we'll contact Higuchi, we'll contact Namikawa, get him to get a hold of Higuchi. It pretty much works exactly as they have planned. And he'll believe us when he realizes the person on TV knows his secret. Now, L goes to get the rabbit, but then he changes his mind and he squishes the little other treat. And he's like, nah, and he goes for the egg instead. And he's like, oh, we'll use Iber. And he'll reveal that he was really a spy. I'm like, Matsuda, your plans aren't great. And then I like that L's like, not by a long shot. We're not using Iber. We might need him for something else. No. And I like that Matsuda's like, oh, no, really? And then Watari takes the other trolley away. Like, why? The person who appears on the show has to be someone who Higuchi thinks he can kill. Someone whose name he can easily look up. And it's like, oh, he's like, well, is there anyone that can do it? And I like that everybody's just like, it's you, Matsuda, obviously. He's like, he's like, only Mr. Matsuda can do it. And he's like, Matsuda, huh? He's like, Higuchi thinks you were listening in on their meeting. He's like, and he thinks you probably faked your death. What I love about this is that we talked back in episode 19 about how the whole thing with Matsuda, how obvious it was, and how it was kind of like, it seems like, oh, well, you know, that whole line, well, at least we saw him die, like, that seems like a throwaway line. But the creator cleverly used it in this episode. So that one plot point that I was like, man, that kind of is weak. No, it was all intentional, because they needed that plot point to happen so they could reuse Matsuda for this moment with Higuchi. I should not have doubted you, Sensei. I should not have doubted you. And he's like, that's right. And then he has the rabbit. We'll have Sakura TV prepare the glass privacy screen, the voice filter that they use for witnesses. And he's sitting there squishing the rabbit, which maybe the rabbit's Matsuda. And so they're like, yeah, Higuchi will recognize a silhouette, and we'll have Matsuda accidentally flashed, and then we'll go with it. But now and then I love that Misa is just like kind of morbidly like, that sounds like fun. Yay, what a scandal. We get lots of ratings, which is why the guy's probably going to be all about it that runs the TV show. And then at the end, we'll reveal the name of Kira, the name of H, who is Kira. I like that we have L, we have H, we have Kira, like all these initials. And so Higuchi will have to discover his name as soon as possible. So we're gonna make him desperate, and we can anticipate Higuchi's actions. So yeah, the idea is to make Higuchi desperate. Make him desperate, because then he's going to use emotion over logic, which is exactly what we talked about at the beginning of this reaction video. The idea that the times where L and Light have seemed desperate and done things where emotion has overrid logic, like things have happened that were not part of the plan. And so now they're going to use that same tactic on Higuchi himself, which is kind of crazy, right? We can anticipate his actions from there. It's wonderful. And he's like, and we'll be able to see how Kira kills. We're going to see how does he find the info to prove it, right? Because that's what he's trying to do, right? After that, we'll apprehend him. He's like, right now, the only problem in the plan is that if Higuchi can kill by looking at someone's face like the second Kira, then Matsuda is going to die. And he squishes the bunny and the stuff comes out. It's kind of morbid. L's kind of morbid. A little creepy. So yeah, Matsuda's in trouble. It's like he could die throughout this if the guy has the same power as the second Kira. There's a big gamble with this. And the scary thing is, the question of the matter is, would Higuchi, in his desperation, try to get the Shinigami eyes to kill someone based on just seeing their face? That's the question, because they need to know their real name. That's the question, right? what is the case here? Like, is he going to get that desperate to get the Shinigami eyes? Because it makes sense why Higuchi does not have the Shinigami eyes. I wondered that at the beginning when we first found out Higuchi was the third Kira. I'm like, why didn't he use the Shinigami eyes? Why did he not take the deal? Well, he knows about them, so he clearly knows about the deal, but Higuchi is so greedy and wants to, like, you know, live as long as possible that why would he shorten his lifespan, right? Makes sense, right? So if he gets desperate enough and thinks he's about to be found out, would he take the deal and become like the second Kira? I don't know. So that's a big gamble, right? That's one question going into episode 23. I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, Matsuda, that face that he makes, he's like, oh. But then Light says, since you're still alive and he still wants Misa, I doubt that he'll get to that point. That probably won't happen. Good job, Light. Way to diffuse Matsuda's tension. And Elle says, well, this is all if the criminals stop dying. We'll have to watch for 2 or 3 days to see what happens, which is what they end up doing. And at that time, Mr. Matsuda will decide if he wants to do it or not. But here's the thing. I was like, Matsuda's going to do it because his whole thing has been about having a role and a purpose, and this is his chance. And he gets the courage and says, no, I don't have to wait 2 or 3 days. I'll do it. He's like, please let me do it. Oh, I am a little worried if he decides to go in his desperation with the Shinigami eyes. If he'll kill Matsuda. I'm a little worried about that. Because then that's going to be on Elle. That's going to be on Elle trying to figure out his method of killing rather than just turning him in. I don't know. So we get these 2 rules, right? The dead god of death will disappear, but the death note remains. The ownership of this death note is usually carried over to the next god of death that touches it, but it is common sense that it is returned to the great god of death, which I'm assuming is the king, the king of the Shinigami. So it makes sense that when Jealous died, Rim took the notebook, so it became Rim's. That makes sense. And so that means we're assuming that Ryuk, he stole the one death note from behind the great god of death's back, so the great god of death is a bit ominous. Just saying. I wonder if the white-haired character with the yellow eyes is the great god of death. That'd be kind of cool if he looks humanoid. Because Ryuk's original design was supposed to be kind of like this weird humanoid fusion between, like, it looked kind of like Light. It's weird. So I'm wondering if that yellow-eyed, white-haired character is the great god of death. I don't know. I'm so floored that some of these characters we're not even going to see until, like, the final hour of this show, the 3rd act. But those are usually the best characters. The best characters, as I've learned from Neon Genesis and Banana Fish, the best and scariest characters are always the ones that come in unexpectedly in the 3rd act. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so then the other rule behind the death note that we get in this episode is that only by touching each other's death note can human individuals who own the death note in the human world recognize the appearance or voice of another's god of death, which we learned from Light and Misa. But Light, I think, said he remembered seeing Rim, so curious. So then we go to this special house. I don't know whose house it is, but they're at somebody's location. It's either one of them. So he says, what do you want to talk to me about in secret? The one guy looks, Namikawa. The one guy that looks scary is like, who do you think is Kira? And he says, why do you want to know? Could be either of you. I want to see who is there. He's like, Shimura's not Kira. He was just crying to me. Yeah, he was just crying to me about how he can't keep up with Kira's evil deeds anymore. So Shimura is the guy that looks scared all the time. Okay, Shimura is that guy. And he's like, well, Shimura, if Mito was Kira, you would have been killed. So Mito is the guy with the glasses. Okay. He's in the OP. Looks a lot like Light. A little bit worried about him. Mito has the beefed up security system as well. So Elle had deduced that someone else had the death note, right? That someone else could have had the death note. There could have been 2 of the 7 having the death note, right? That's what he deduced. So I'm wondering, is Mito... I know Namikawa just said if Mito was Kira, you would have been killed, but maybe not. What if Mito's just trying to out all of them and see who the other Kira is? What if... And I don't know. I don't want to know answers. I'm just throwing out theories. I'm just thinking out loud here. But what if, like, Light had Ryuk if Ryuk gave the other death note, if he dug it up out of the woods and gave it to one of these other guys too. Just for lulz. I don't know. How do we know that another Shinigami hasn't shown up and given one of these guys the death notes too? We don't know. I'm just like, the Mito guy is suspicious for some reason. And not just because he's in the OP, but because he has the security system in his house. Like, he seems, and we get the idea later on that he's got some other reason why that could be the case, but he's awfully suspicious. I don't know. As is Shimura. He's like, you two wouldn't need to hold these stupid meetings. Even I know that. And they're all cooperating because they're afraid Kira is going to kill us. So they've all decided that, like, enough is enough. We're going to get found out. And I love that we have this hawk that's, like, sitting there looking down. Like, is this Shimura's house or is it Mito's house? And so Shimura is asked who he thinks is Kira. And he says Takahashi or Higuchi. And, like, Takahashi is only there to make Kira look smarter. So they think that Takahashi, he's like the oaf guy that has the blonde hair. Mito says that Takahashi makes Kira look smarter. And that's it. It's like thundering outside my window. And that's why he could be Kira. He needs someone around who's less sophisticated than he is. And he's like, well, it seems everyone already knows. It's probably Higuchi. And they're like, yeah, Higuchi's the one most obsessed with money and status. So yeah, this Mito guy kind of looks like Light, just with glasses and shaggier hair. The way he always says things as if he's not interested in success is proof of that. Like, he always is very nonchalant, right? So then they called Ui. Now, Ui is suspicious too, because Ui's like, I don't care, stay out of this. Ui's been suspicious to me since day one. I honestly, before we had the reveal that it was Higuchi, I thought it was Ui. I thought it was him. I was like, It'd be funny if it was like multiple ones and Rim was using all of them. Interesting. And so they get to the idea that they're like, that they ask Namikawa if what about that phone call that he had the other day at the board meeting. And right about that time, he gets the phone call from L. And he's like, well, shit, what weird timing. And they ask if he's alone. And he says no. And I was curious how this conversation was going to go down, how he wouldn't be suspicious. And he's like, there's no need for that. There's someone who got suspicious after you called during the meeting. And they're like, who's calling you? And he says, it's L. And they're both like, oh! I love how they're both like, just like looking so seriously. And Light's like, well, shit. And they're like, oh, you know what? He's like, L, Mito, and Shimura are here. You know what? Mito has the glasses. Never trust an anime character with glasses, because in this one shot, you see that Mito's eyes are blacked out. You can't see what he looks like. Never trust an anime character with glasses. They're always suspicious. Highly suspicious, especially in a suspense thriller. I don't think that they're Kira. They seem to be fed up with Kira. Meanwhile, I love that I love the idea of like Elle's in the middle of eating this Swiss roll. He's like right there waiting on it. And I love that Light's like, well, damn it. What do we do now? We've been had, Elle. Also, how much stuff has Watari sent him? He will have diabetes. And he's like, well, that should be fine. You can go ahead and talk to him. And he tells about how he's going to catch Kira. And I want you to help me a little. Also, Light has changed into the same white button-up shirt that he is wearing in the ED. So whatever that amounts to, I don't know. The whole thing with Light with his shirt open is just, what? And again, I don't trust Mito because there's a falcon behind him with its wings spread looking ominous. Not having it. He says, Higuchi's done, huh? And he's like, you knew? And Elle's like, why'd you give that away? I just love that Elle's like, why'd you play that hand like that? And Misa's the whole time back there like, but Elle's like, what's the deal? Okay, at least Light with his white shirt undone has the black shirt underneath. And then he's like, oh, so it seems even Elle can be tricked. By your reaction now, I'm 100% sure that it's Higuchi. And I love that Elle looks like he's about to point out Light's falling, his failure here. He's like, wow, Namikawa's pretty good. I was expecting that considering his looks. Okay, in the episode I thought when Misa said, I thought she said I wasn't expecting that because of his looks. I thought she was saying, well, because he's good looking, I didn't think he was smart. But here she's saying because he's good looking, I thought he was smart. Which ties to her knowing that Light's smart and him being good looking. I guess it applies to Elle. And then Elle's like, oh no, Light just made a mistake. And then Light has the give me strength look. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm going to take all the pictures. And he's like, and he explains what the plan is going to be and what Namikawa has to do for this plan to work. And Namikawa's like, okay, it is Higuchi. So what do we do? He's going to be arrested tonight. And then it's just like, we cut to Higuchi, who's doing the stereotypical villain with wine glass in his dark house pose, which is not too unlike. I wonder if the Death Note makes you want to hang out in dimly lit spaces, because Light, when he had the Death Note, he like barely turned on anything but his stupid fluorescent lamp. And here, Higuchi's like in the dark except with the TV lantern and his wine glass. So I'm like, maybe the Death Note just makes you part vampire. I don't know. But yeah, he has the wine glass and he's talking about just how everything's going according to plan. And I feel bad for Rim. Rim is like having to sit here like listening to him talking about marrying Misa and just, ugh. And she just seems like disturbed and done with it all. I just love how Misa, and she's just in the corner creepily. It's great. Like he's not talking to her, not acknowledging her existence. It's really sad. And then he gets the phone call. He gets the phone call from Namikawa. And so, yeah, it's great. And he starts to recognize that it's Matsuda behind the curtain. And it's like, oh shit. And that's when they stage for him to be spotted. Mm-hmm. And they explain that everything that happened in episode 19 was all a setup. I love that. I love the creator was just like, no, there was a reason for me doing that whole hokey plan with Matsuda. And now y'all are seeing it pay off here. That's clever writing. I doubted it at the time, but now I'm like, okay, creator, you knew what you were doing. I'm here for you. And so Higuchi starts to kind of panic and sweat and being like, what is going on? And so they go back to doing everything. And I like that Daddy Yagami is with the police, is with the TV man, that's the director. And he's like, if Second Kira is Misa, she'll know. So he calls her. And I love that she has a little keychain. She has a little Misa. She has her own keychain that looks like herself with like the cross from the Death Note in it. It's great. And so her phone rings. And Misa's like, oh, here it comes. And she turns him down. And that's when he calls Namikawa. He's like, I've been debating whether I should make the announcement or not. It's my duty to reveal it. And he's like, oh shit. So he calls Namikawa back. And I love, so they're watching this, the fragrance commercial with Misa. And she looks really good in it. Like the camera and the editing of it, like devilish charm, angelic shine. How fitting. I love that commercial. That's great. Misa's winning Rouge. It's great. And he's like, oh God. He's like, Mito, it's me. Something bad's happening on Sakura TV. Contact your father in the House of Counselors. So Mito, his father, let me get this right. Mito's father is in the House of Counselors. That's interesting. So his dad has some higher up connections, right? Interesting. And he says, have the Ministry of Internal Affairs stop this program, which has connections to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Here's the scary thing. The guy, Mito kind of, he looks like Light. He has like similar hair to Light. His dad is like really high up in the like law enforcement or political sphere. He has connections to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. He has a high-tech security system. We talked in a few episodes ago about like what would happen if Light took over from L's position and had the power of the police and the Death Note, how deadly he would be. Well, Mito would kind of be bad too. So that just raises suspicion. I'm like, no, Mito would be awful with the Death Note. That sounds like a bad thing. So I'm like, I feel like maybe that means he doesn't have it. I don't know. Elle mentioning that there could be 2 Kiras within the 7, it has made me suspicious ever since then. But Mito, if he was the other Kira, like the 4th Kira, I don't know. I feel like he'd have too much in the palm of his hand. Why would he even need Higuchi? Maybe he wants, and maybe Mito, if he has a Death Note, wants Higuchi to be caught as well, to like scapegoat him, and then nobody will suspect anything. I don't know. Here's my thing. The only reason that I suspect Mito of having a Death Note in the first place is because Elle has brought the idea of 2 people having a Death Note. It would be a good twist. I don't think Rim knows that Mito has a Death Note if he has one. I feel like, I don't know if like these 2 blondes that are in the OP in the final hour are going to be connected to Mito in any way, shape, or form. I'm just thinking out loud. But I definitely think it's good that Mito doesn't have a Death Note because he seems like somebody that would be an ideal, right? That Light talked about you not wanting to happen. The fact that Mito's in the ED, these 2 randos that are suspicious are in the ED, and that suspicious woman are in the ED, I don't know. Something's up with Mito, and I feel like he's going to have a bigger part in this, but I don't know what that could be. We'll see. I don't want any spoilers, so we'll see. He's like, I'm watching too, but that's impossible. No one takes this program seriously, and we'd look suspicious. Yeah, so Amito, he's like, why would I call my dad about this? He's like, that's dumb. They'll suspect us. I don't want that to happen. And he's like, but he's like, there's nothing to fear anymore. He's like, that guy just showed his face. We can confirm it's Taro Matsui. Namikawa is telling everyone to watch the show. So whoever is Kira, somebody out of the 7 of us is Kira. He's doing the same thing that Elle and Light are doing, trying to out him, right? Suspicious. So Taro Matsui will die soon. And he knows, he's like, well, damn it, I'm the only one that knows that it's not really him. Oh my god. Oh shit. If I say that, I'll reveal that I'm Kira. The thing is, they already know that he's Kira. So Higuchi is just he's not Light Yagami. Even when the other side knows that he's Kira. It's funny, it's the polar opposite. In this case, they know that Higuchi is Kira. It's just flushing him out. Whereas with Light, there was suspicion, but nobody knew for sure that Light was Kira. So it's a little different. And he's like, Kira's identity will become clear soon. Stay with us. And he's like, damn it. And that's when he called. I love that Misa's there, like, come on, Mochi! Like, calling Mogi. In front of Yoshida Productions. And he's like, okay, so what we gonna do? Also, I want to make note that both Light and Misa are wearing, like, she has the overalls, he has the white shirt, and it's black underneath for both of them because they're both Kira. I love it. So, yeah. He's like, okay, the next stage has come exactly as planned. And they have this, like, crazy graphic. Like, when did they have time to make the M and H graphics? When did they have time, Elle? When did you have time to do this? You had 2 to 3 days. Bullshit, you don't have an IT degree. Misa is taking a much-needed break right now. She'll be back tomorrow. Oh, I just realized something too. When Misa was seeing because when they did a close-up of her, she had brown contacts in. But when she went and saw Higuchi, her eyes were blue. So she must have wore contacts for that as well. Huh, that's interesting. Okay. And I'm asking you, where is she? It's private. And which Mogi asks very reasonably. He answers reasonably. He's like, no, I'll contact her tomorrow. Like, why are you so desperate? And Higuchi's like, I know his face. I could kill him at any time if I only knew his name. Oh, and then he asks, was the previous manager an ex-entertainer, as Iber's there with him? And he's like, excuse me? The guy by the name of Taro Matsui. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I was just a replacement. If that's the case, he's like, contact somebody. He's like, well, everyone's gone to Okinawa. Can you call the president? And then Light's like, wow, this is going exactly as we had planned. It's kind of scary. But here's the thing. This is the thing about it, is that Light, I wonder if he had Rim give the death note to Higuchi, knowing how easy it would be. If Light was like, no, Higuchi's not smart like us. He's gonna act in a very predictable way. So we'll be able, he's like, if Elle and I work together on this, we'll be able to track him. I feel like Light doing his 4D damn chess move was like, yep, nope, Higuchi will be easy to take down. Just leave him to myself and Elle, we'll figure it out. I think that's what happened. And Elle's like, don't be scared. Be happy, Yagami. He's like, it's scary. He's like, no, be happy, Yagami. We're about to catch Kira. He's like, you're about to get everything you wanted, right? Mm-hmm. And so then they broadcast to the president, which is not the real name of the guy earlier. And then Misa's like, he's getting more and more direct. And he's like, Higuchi is an idiot. It's proof he's losing confidence. Mm-hmm. He's like, what's his real name? He's like, oh, Yamada, no Yamashita. Like, I wonder if they give him the wrong name like multiple times to where he'll write it and then he won't be able to kill Matsuda because he'll be writing. That would be a really good chance to prove that if you wrote the name so many times wrong in the death note that person would be spared from it. That would be cool. That means Matsuda couldn't be killed. I would like it if that happened. That'd be great. And he's like, don't screw around. Remember the names of the people you hire. Like, he's desperate. And they're like, why you got that tone, dude? I have his personal history at the back of the office. Like he's trapped. Like, they are trapping him like a rat to see what he's going to do. Oh, my God. Go back there and tell me. Give me a break. He says, we haven't had a company vacation in over 2 years. He says, if you want to know that badly, I'll tell you the security code for the office door. And now, see, this should be very suspicious. It's like, why would the president of this company give a rando the security code? But Higuchi's so desperate, he's thinking emotionally, not logically. He just wants to stop Matsuda from saying his name. And so he's like, the personnel files are in the desk farthest to the back to the left. They're alphabetized in the bottom drawer. It's probably Yamashita. And he's like, it gives me 2 hours, so they're going to save it at the end of the program. And so then, of course, they've tracked the thunder. They're tracking it, and we have Weddy. And he grabs the gun, which is scary. He grabs the death note, puts it in the bag. So now, yeah, so he's got the death note. So all they have to do is get him on camera using the death note, right? And then we're good, right? Right? That's all they have to do. All they have to do is catch him on camera, writing the name in the death note, and that's it. And then Elle just has to apprehend it. So, we're so close. So close. But I'm like, something in the next episode is going to happen. Something's going to happen. Because it can't be that good. It's too good to be true that Elle is going to figure out how the death note works in the next episode. Too good to be true. Not like, come on. Like, show, you're baiting me. You're baiting me hard. You're getting me all fired up. You're baiting me hard with this. You make me think that's going to work out. Wheaty's got her, like, Catwoman thing. She's, like, pulling out. She's like, I've confirmed Higuchi. He has one bag on him. I'm going after him. And he says, everything's going according to plan. Yes. Ooh. And he's like, he thinks that he's going to kill him. He's going to kill Matsuda. And then Rim is there the whole time. Rim's like, these disgusting humans. She's just watching like a cat. Oh my God. Oh! Yeah, it seems too good to be true. Like, it seems like everything is falling into place so perfectly. I'm like, no, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. I don't know what yet, but it's something's up, right? So, But yeah, it all seems to be going in place. I'm just saying, this show does not give you any clues unless they mean something. And as the moment that the whole thing with Matsuda came back into the limelight, the whole moment that everything from episode 19 came back to affect this episode, I was like, nothing is off limits. Nothing can be overturned. Everything needs to be observed. Obviously, I want the surprise of finding out if I'm right or wrong. If I'm wrong, amazing. Every time I've been wrong in this show, it's been an amazing twist. If I'm right, I'm going to be like so psyched, but I don't want to know. So please do not spoil me. No hints, no clues, nothing. But Mito is suspicious, and it's mainly his appearance in the OP, but it's suspicious, right? It is concerning. I don't know who that woman is. And these two blonde characters at the end, I'm like, what the fudge? One has white hair technically, but I'm wondering if one of them is like the great god of death. I'm imagining the white-haired one is maybe the great god of death. I don't know, the Shinigami king. But I don't know. But it all seems too easy. Everything's wrapping up. Matsuda could be in trouble if he got the Shinigami eyes. Rim's with him, so if he called on Rim to give him the Shinigami eyes, that would be a problem. But will they catch up to that? I don't know. It just seems too good to be true. I feel like this entire series is never going to let L know until the very end of the series, if Light kills him, how the Death Note works. I don't want Light to kill L. I don't. But I don't know. The question would be, and this is going to be like something I want to posit here, and I don't want it answered. I'm going to leave it here and just know that it's filed in the back of my brain, is what if, because Light's not a Shinigami, right? Light isn't a Shinigami. He's not a god of death, technically. So what if someone tries to kill L and Light stops them? If someone tries to write tries to write his name in the Death Note and Light kills them before they can finish his name. I don't know why that would happen, but what if he did? Like, he technically isn't a Shinigami, so he can't die. So what ends up happening? I don't know. I don't know. This series, the very beginning of it, set up that Light wanted that cat and mouse between him and L to continue. The idea of toying with him forever, right? There was that. So I don't know. It just crossed my mind. Like, what if that happened? But I don't know where this series is going with that. And it seems like Higuchi may be caught in the next episode, but that seems too good to be true. So I don't know. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Like I said, please no spoilers. But I'm curious to know what y'all thought of this episode. Ridiculous. So we shall see, right? But in any case, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 23 of Death Note. Bye.